today it's time for another Star Wars edit. But this time the initial idea wasn't to really do an edit like I did with the Mandalorian and clone videos, but instead I wanted to make a compilation of the most beautiful shots in Rogue One. So essentially making an homage to the cinematography in Rogue One. It did kind of go off the rails a bit, but the idea is still in there somewhere. And Rogue One just has so many beautiful shots. I have folders of each of the Star Wars films where I've collected screenshots of nice shots from each movie, and this is what the folders for the other films look like at the moment. And this is what the folder for Rogue One looks like. So, yeah. And not only does the film look beautiful, it also fits the look of Star Wars so well. There's the kind of attention to detail when it comes to visual storytelling that I feel like has been missing from a lot of recent Star Wars projects. The cinematographer of Rogue One is Greg Fraser, or Greg, I don't know. And he's also known for his work on films like Zero Dark 30, Lion, Vice, Dune, and the Batman. But anyway, that's pretty much the backstory of why I wanted to make this project in the first place. Now to the project itself. So the first step was to cut out all the cinematic shots, like all the shots that are just extra beautiful and they just have that something that make them very cinematic. And for this step I also didn't include anything with dialogue because I felt it would be weird if the characters were speaking and you wouldn't hear what they're saying. And then the next step was to choose the music, because once again I'm making an edit where the music is pretty important since I will be basing the cuts and the pace of the entire video on the music. And I have a huge folder of cinematic soundtracks, so there was a lot of options and I compiled about 5 or 6 ones that I felt could be good. When it comes to the process of choosing music, I kind of go with feeling and if I can imagine the video in my mind as I'm listening to the music, and also be on the lookout for clear like beats and rhythm that you can use to make transitions and stuff like that. I also had some outside help in eventually narrowing it down to one soundtrack. It was a very beautiful soundtrack, I feel like, and it did build up to become like very powerful in the end. It also had a good ending, which I felt was important because I wanted it to have a sort of, well, specific type of ending. You'll see what I mean once you see the final product. And then step number 3 was to start filtering the shots, basically. I had about 25 minutes of footage when I had already extracted all the so-called cinematic shots. And since the soundtrack I chose only was 4 minutes, I would have to really pick and choose really the best stuff, which was very difficult because there is just so many beautiful shots in Rogue One. And then step 4 was just to pretty much edit the stuff together. So really just again listen to the music and find clips that suit that specific part of the soundtrack. And sometimes I had to do some speeding up or slowing down to make the clip last as long as needed, or also sometimes to match footsteps to the beat of the music. For example, here I'm putting the speed to 108%. You're not going to notice it when you watch that it's sped up, but it will just match the music perfectly and that's just gonna look a lot better. And usually this step of just like choosing clips and putting them in place is really easy for me, but this time there was a lot more back and forth and having to try out different shots and not being really happy with how it looks and changing things and moving one clip from one place to another and stuff like that. I can't exactly say why it was, but it was still fun though, and there were many moments where you kind of had to do some problem solving, which is a pretty integral part of editing actually, and one of my favorite parts of editing. And then step 5, the final step, was the sound effects. If you've seen my previous edits or even my sound journey story, then you know that I do usually put a lot of effort on sound effects and telling a story through sound. But this time, since the focus is on the visuals, I felt like having too many sound effects would take away from that, especially since the music I chose is pretty powerful. But I did still put some stuff in there in moments I thought it would fit, and I also mostly used the original sound effects from the clips themselves. But I made sure to not let the sound effects take too much attention, and I think I managed to do that. I'm not sure, you tell me. So then it's time to look at the final result. So there we have it. I hope you enjoyed it, but let me know what you think. This was a bit of a spontaneous project. One day I just felt like doing it, but I am glad that I did because I am very happy with the outcome. And if you want to see some of my other edits, then here you go. Until next time, bye bye.